Who are you? Hi, Christina, by the way. And
Hi,
yes,
Chesten. It's been
who
a
are,
minute.
yeah, it's been a hot minute.
Literally. It's been hot.
It has been very hot, hot, hot. So yeah, like who are you, or how would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. I think I change and evolve every single day. And I'm just thinking of that because I have to tell you, like I went on this journey, but to who I am now, like, so I am, even yesterday, I was in a meeting there, like, how would you describe what you do? And at first I was like energy healer, but I'm like, man, I'm
Mm,
so much more than that because it encompasses so much, right? Because I have the psychic things that come in. That's just,
mm,
it's just throughout the whole day. But then I can't say I'm a medium, but I can, because when I do Reiki, that's when past loved ones really come through. So like, I'm not really a medium, but I am. I do psychic things, but more of like that energy healing is what I love. And even for like humans, animals, everything. And like, even when I walk out in nature, I feel like I'm being healed by them, everything, the trees, the birds. And I'm also sending that as well because I'm actually acknowledging them. I'm like, even like a tree, like, it's part broken. I'm like, I see you in my head. Like, I'm like, I see you. Or like a bird, I see you. So it's like, how can you, what's this, us humans, we want to define, we want to put labels and define what we are. And sometimes that's hard because it encompasses so much.
mhm.
Does that make sense? Like, it's just,
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. We're a hodgepodge of a bunch of different experiences, memories, perceptions, and we've got a little bit of everything within us, it seems like. And kind of, or I guess maybe the better question would be like, how do you feel, or what currently, like what at this point feels like when you're expressing yourself the most authentically? And maybe that's the better question for like what it is now. And it sounds like from what you're saying, one of the aspects is doing energy healing. It sounds like it helps you kind of come back to yourself and connect with like the collective or the divine or that universal energy as a whole. And it sounds like it helps you or allows you to connect with both the individual and the collective. Like each individual, like you were saying, when you take your nature walks, you're connecting with that tree as well as like the woods, or as well as like the rocks and things like that. So maybe that'd be the better question is, for as of now, how do you express yourself authentically or feel like you are the most connected with yourself and with the world around you?
lots of things came into my mind. Hopefully I don't forget the one I set to the side. I feel to being connected with myself is number one, is not forgetting who I am, helps me. I reel myself back in when I get disconnected. Like, so if I connect back in, that's how I feel like I'm my most authentic. And even when I'm in spaces of like energy healing or sound bath healing, or like I was going to tell you about the somatic breath work I just did, which was an amazing experience. It was the most profound thing, and everything, even when I did that sound bath, it was a profound thing. It's like I made that space for myself to go to see what that was and took what I needed from it. So it's like I'm always servicing myself first so I can service others. Like doing energy work is so nurturing for my soul, no matter what kind of energy work. Like if I'm, mainly my main modality is Reiki. So when I get the privilege and honor to be able to help heal, bring people back to themselves, center themselves, bring in those flowing waters throughout their chakras and balancing them back up, that is a gift they're giving me to be able to do, because I love to see people know when they're in a space that is unsettling and they don't know quite what it is. Being able to let's do some Reiki. and every single time I get to see how amazing that modality is, how it helps that person. Or if I had a bird, like I gave Reiki to a bird. So it's like, I don't know. That is like my number, I don't know, helping and serving in that way helps us all as a collective, right? Not every one of us is going to do Reiki or any other kind of healing modalities, but the ones that are raising that vibration. So it's just like lifting it up. So I'm grateful to be a part of that. I think like that's, yeah.
What got you into Reiki, or what brought you on that path?
It's a really amazing story. So I took the Be Your Own Psychic class with Samantha Faye. So within that class, you have like exercises. So you get paired up with partners. So my very first partner, so mind you, this was my first psychic or mediumship class I've ever taken. I'm like, cool, I'm going to do it. So I did it. But my very first partner, I did a reading with her. It was about a past loved one, just through picture. And then she's like, just kind of blown away by like what I was able to get off of just a picture. And so was I. And then she's like, hey, have you ever heard of Reiki? I'm like, yes. She's like, think you would be really good at it. I'm like, okay. And then we continued working like next month, because it was like a month-long or 2-week class. And I'm like, well, where'd you go? So she told me where she went to get hers. And I'm like, all right, cool, I'm going to sign up. And she's like, well, if you sign up, I'll sign up too. So she met me in Maryland. She took her Reiki 1 and Reiki 2, which she already had. So she took it with me. So we were taking Reiki 1 and Reiki 2 together. And that was the first time we met. So it's like just that one class built this friendship.
Yeah.
Where we still talk and we still connect. And we signed up for our Reiki Masters together. So we're like taking this Reiki journey together. So like if I wouldn't have taken that class, and if Patty wouldn't have been in there, like I probably wouldn't be here. See, it's just all lined up perfectly.
Well, and what gave you that initiative to even take the Be Your Own Psychic class?
I think going, like we all go through stages in life. I always knew I had things I knew, the knowings, the things. You feel really connected and grounded. And like 20 years ago, someone was trying to mentor me, but I'm like, I wasn't in that headspace yet. I'm young. I'm like, I don't know. She's like, I think you'd be really good at this. I think here, I'll mentor you. But then, you're young, you're just going through life. But then like when hard things happen, you stop and you reflect. So that's going through hard things. And even you don't have to go through hard things to get to here. It's just a life altering thing, be it positive or negative, to get you to that space to connect. So that's what made me like go within and really work on myself. And it brought me to that space. I started looking for things that I need to connect and ground better for myself to be able to, on this planet at this time. And then I started listening to podcasts, of course, right? And then I'm like, ooh, that one, I like that one, and then I signed up for a class. So that's how I got to that point. So it was a long journey. It was a lifetime journey, honestly.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, and do you have any goals or specific intentions for having this podcast or inspiration?
I would say just for everyone to see this is everyday life. It doesn't have to look one way or another. We all are humans doing our human experiences, having jobs and having these, they're not even gifts. They are just us, the things that we're able to do and bring and serve. And we bring that and they weave us in and out of that. So I think with this podcast, I just want to bring to light of like, don't underestimate the abilities that you already have within yourself to keep going, right? To keep rising and just being into that higher state of consciousness, which I feel like we really need right now. And I know we are transitioning into that, even though sometimes it looks dark in the world, but that light shines brighter than the darkness, So I think that's mainly just to be able to bring in conversations in everyday life of like, even if someone's asked you, what do you do? And I want us to be able to someday get to that point of we don't have to hide in that psychic closet and be able to say, like, I do energy healing. And past loved
Yeah.
ones might come through. If you want to hear from them, I'll let you know. If you don't, we don't have to talk about it. But they connected with me, to be able to say that freely, and not only to a select group that understand it. So it's almost helping raise a consciousness. So if we have just a regular, we're just doing our thing, and that everyone else sees that we're just doing our thing too, but we have these other things, that it's not scary. I don't know if people think it's scary or against their beliefs, or it just is. It's a being of just is, and a thing of just be. Yeah. I don't know. I probably went on a tangent. I don't even know if I answered.
No, that was good. Well, because it sounds like from what you were describing is that it's hosting to show that people aren't alone, who may have similar experiences, who may be having these abilities. And not just that, but it sounds like giving a space for everybody to recognize that they have these abilities, whatever you want to call it, whether it's intuition, psychic abilities, a blend of it all, and creating a space to treat it more with normalcy. That while it is very amazing, it's also very mundane, but in a beautiful way, in the sense that everybody is capable of doing it. And it sounds like everybody does do it to certain degrees, and creating that space where, again, that you're introducing these things and just talking about it like everyday life, because it ought to be talked about just kind of like, oh, I went and got a cup of coffee and then I went down and had an energy session and my loved one said hi from the other side. That it should just be a very casual experience. And I guess too, also honoring that just as much as that is amazing and beautiful, that also the cup of coffee part is amazing and beautiful. Like, it's a mundane experience, but it's also a very full experience. Or like you were talking about before, taking a walk in nature and greeting the tree. It's a very both extraordinary and ordinary experience, and honoring both of it, like both aspects of it.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Okay.
Yep, you nailed it.
Yay. That's a wonderful reason to host a podcast, or to be here, is helping people not feel so alone. And what I like too is that from you speaking is that you go back and forth with focusing on the individual, focusing on you as the individual, and making sure you take care of yourself, and to going back to the collective or to the community or to your environment. Like, yes, we need to take care of ourselves and we need to help ourselves. And also too, we need to be part of our community, whatever that community is. And sometimes we have to create the community ourselves. We have to create a space for like-minded, where like-minded can link up and connect and further expand. So I really like that it seems like you have a very healthy blend of both honoring and respecting the individual, and also honoring and respecting the community too, and how both should be taken care of. Yeah.
Yep. It's almost like you can't have one without the other, right?
No,
Yeah.
It's so true. And it seems like it's a really bigger problem now with hyper individualism. It seems like, especially like right now in our society, it just seems like people are very much focused on just themselves and their growth, but not bringing that back into their community, which is unfortunate. And the reason they got there, I'm sure there are plenty of very valid reasons why they got to that space. It could be that the community turned their back on them, or didn't back them up, or didn't take care of them. And so, I understand why they would do that. And so what I like too is that encouraging people to not necessarily go back to the communities, or not going back to the communities that made them feel so isolated, but instead, okay, this is what it is. Let's accept that. And then let's take that energy that we have and let's shift and focus on the kind of community we do want. What people do we want to be around? Who matches or has similar morals and ethics, or who will celebrate my abilities, or at least, treat it like, oh, that's awesome. Like being able to talk about it and them not being afraid of being condemned for sharing those parts of them.
Yeah. I like that. Where did your journey begin?
There I was. No, I'm joking. So my journey for the intuitive stuff, like I remember growing up and seeing things and hearing things, but it was very off and on. It was not consistent. And it wasn't until I was like 11 or 12 years old that a local hippie shop sold tarot cards. And of course, I was the epitome of the teenage angst and the cool, all that sort of stuff. I was very lucky that a friend of mine at the time was very into like seeing spirits, tarot stuff, the occult, and things like that. So I was very lucky to have a friendship that created that safe space, because I was with her when I got the cards and she encouraged me to buy them. It wasn't like, oh, gasp, you shouldn't have them. So I was very lucky, just kind of how it all lined up with that. Now, once I had them, I got a deck that was very overall like the interpretations were pretty uplifting, which is something that I really needed. Or it'd be like, yeah, this sucks, but it's going to be okay. I was naturally, or I don't want to say naturally, but I was prone to being very hypercritical and pessimistic and all that sort of stuff. So having a deck of cards that was like, yeah, this may suck, but it'll all be okay, I really needed that. So,
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for that.
Almost like try to flip that switch a little bit.
Yeah. Like I really wonder how much of my first introduction to shifting from a pessimistic outlook to a more, there is a lady that described like my grandmother as being a pragmatic optimist. And I love that definition, which of course with the intuitive stuff, I don't know if someone would if everybody would agree about being a pragmatic, but I aspire to aim for the pragmatic optimist. And so I wonder how much with the tarot cards, like that particular deck and those interpretations, started that shift. Like I definitely needed a shift in perception of life, because definitely I was in that mindset of life sucks and people suck and all that sort of stuff. But I digress. So like that was in my teens. And so growing up where I did, it was very back and forth with those cards. Like I always kept them. I still have them. But there were times where I would do readings and be connected with it. And then there were other times that I would get scared and be like, oh my gosh, am I a terrible person for doing this? Am I evil for doing this? So it was a very back and forth thing all through high school. And it wasn't until I was like late teens, early 20s, working at Barnes and Noble. One of the customers there, we were talking and come to find out that they did Reiki, and they were a master Reiki practitioner and they were teaching a class. And so I signed up for that. And also around that same time, I also took Tai Chi classes at Virginia Western at the local community college. And my instructor, my teacher there, he studied a lot of Buddhism and Taoism, and he was just so like happy. And I was like, why are you so happy? And he basically was like, learning these philosophies and things like that took all this weight of guilt, of all this stuff off me. And so I think those coming together, like blending together, really helped with the intuitive stuff, as well as just, I really feel like with intuitive work, and really with all of it, with everything, with our perceptions of life, or with our life and how we express ourselves and how we live life, is based on our perception. And so I think that being introduced to those people with those concepts really helped start those little shifts in my perception to better connect with like the universal energy, divine energy, source, whatever you would like to call it. And so I took the Reiki 1, 2, and my master Reiki. So I got, I think, my master Reiki in like 2007. And then from there, I had friends that knew different different practitioners of different types of energy work. Like I got to take energy work seminars under like martial artists, as well as there was a gentleman who practiced ancient Shinto healing, and he was visiting someone, like he had come in from Japan and was visiting. And so I got to have a session with him. Like I was very lucky to be introduced to all these different types of modalities, all these different types of people. And then close by there, the county over, they do a psychic fair. They've done it yearly for quite a while now. And so I got to do that around that time too, and experience like card reading, astrology, all of that sort of stuff during that time. And so it's just built from there. And I definitely have gone kind of waved back and forth. Like when I went down to chiropractic school, I kind of moved away, or I wasn't putting as much energy or much time into energy work sort of stuff. I was more focused on being more like studying and things like that. And so I haven't, for my journey, is definitely not been continuous. It's very much been an up and down type of thing. Like I'm in it, I'm not in it. I'm in it, I'm not in it. But probably since my like late 20s, I've been more consistently in the practice of, and like you said, just taking that energy work aspect, but it's everywhere. Like it's in every interaction, and really honoring that, you know, waiting in line can be a huge, beautiful interaction. Of course, walking in nature can be a beautiful interaction. I try to do it with driving my car too. Like this is a beautiful interaction right now, or whatever have you. So it's definitely helped shift like how I view the world and how I connect in the world. Probably the getting that tarot deck when I was in my teens started that whole shift. And like you said, it's like looking back on it, I can see how it shifted the trajectory. And it's really cool how making that choice opened up more opportunities to make similar choices. And I think it's very humbling. For me, it's like reflecting back on all of that. It's a very humbling experience to see how it all interconnects. And also too, it opens, like it helps me give myself more credit for the times that I did choose myself, or the times that I did choose to invest in my spiritual practice. Because I really do think energy work and spirituality are intertwined. I really don't think that you can separate them. Even if a person's an atheist too, like there's still that source energy or that collective energy instead. Like I totally get, it doesn't have to be defined as like God or whatever, or the divine or anything. But that's how I feel, is that I feel like energy work intertwines with source, or that whatever it is that we all came from and are all connected to. And it's definitely helped me better, I don't want to say understand, because I don't think I'll fully ever understand, but be curious about just how much we are connected to one another, and how much our individual energies influence and shape and mold and change one another and ourselves.
Yes. I like that. And I agree. Like what really hit me is that we always see that change, or we hope to always see a change, if we're actually going in that direction. But just to see the change of just our being, right? Of us changing, and how it transcends to the people that are around us, right? And sometimes
Yeah.
we don't do that on purpose. They just see how centered and connected, and just how we view things, differently, and
Mm.
it stops them almost and opens their eyes and being like, think on that, you know?
Well, yeah, and I think that sort of stuff, just how us being ourselves can encourage a person to be themselves. Not that they need to be like us. They can be completely different from us, but by us being ourselves and being a safe place where
Yes.
they can authentically be themselves. I really feel like that stuff supports concepts like resonance, where, if vibrating with authenticity, or if it's one of those, or even if I think the world is a wonderful place. And I think there's a lot of terrible things that happen in life. And I think that there are obviously there are a lot of really terrible things happening right now that are not okay. And there are very bad people who are doing very bad things. And too many innocent people are being hurt. Too many people are being hurt, mistreated, all of that stuff. That is definitely happening, and it's not okay. With that said, I don't think the majority of people are bad. Um, I really like the dramas where they show that there are people who are in complicated situations. Of course, they're still making a choice and it's still not okay, but they're not just straight up evil. It's like, I think a small majority of people are terrible people. They just happen to be wielding a lot of big influence.
And I think sometimes that comes from inner work that was never worked on. That's just my feeling. So,
Total insecurity. Yeah, you're
yeah,
absolutely
it's just
right.
like we have inner child work. Like, and I know a lot of us in our kind of a community, intuitive, we we see and acknowledge that. And if there are things for us to work on, we acknowledge it and we put ourselves in check. But like, I'm not in a good space, and here's what I need to do, right? Or that's why, just going back to what you were saying, like the people that are not doing well, right?
Mhm.
Those people are not well because they're not working on the things that they need to work on for within themselves. And then that's how we can get some very negative, dark things happening in the world, is because afraid of connecting with themselves, or afraid of what it would be like to be different than how they
Well,
think in that moment.
I think for the ones who are doing like terrible things, I think it's too much at this point. And I feel like that's the hard part of being part in the energy work world, is that finding those nuances and finding the, like, at the end of the day, people who are doing bad things and intentionally hurting people, it's more than, like, I feel like just defining it as them needing to do inner work, while true, it's also they're actively choosing to have people suffer, like, type of thing. Does that make sense? And that
Yeah.
holding them that accountability. Yeah, because I feel like and I think that's in all different areas, or all different professions. I mean, I unfortunately know of people who are in the energy world community who support abusers, like, are actively supporting abusive people, who are actively supporting people who are cruel to other people. So for me, it hits harder for people who are in fields like us, who support people who are harming other people.
Yeah.
It just,
Yeah, it makes you stop and think of like, what is this? What,
yeah, like,
it's almost like, for me, I can't logically wrap my head around some of those things, right? Like what you just said, of like, I don't.
well, and it makes you wonder, like, that's where that the scarcity, so I know that there's the whole scarcity mindset, and there's, of course, the inner child work and things like that. But I do wonder if there are some people who just want so badly to view themselves as superior to others and enact that. And don't be wrong, that can still be a person not working on themselves. Like, of course, they still need to do self work and all that sort of stuff. And yes, it definitely shows a lack of healing on their part. It's just so unfortunate how many people, because I mean, you have people who have all the money in the world and they still make choices to allow others to suffer who have nothing. And it's just mind boggling. And they'll pick people who supposed to be these very spiritual people, like in their communities, who support what they're doing. And it's just wild. It's just wild how much that happens, which I know that's a whole tangent, but I guess that's like looking at those things definitely, like, even though it's very, like I said, very much a tangent, all of that sort of stuff has shifted my like those things did have an influence of my perception of life too. And I do think that acknowledging those injustices and calling out even a person who may say all the right things and they may claim to be, very spiritually inclined or things like that. What are their actions? Who are they supporting? Who are they holding accountable? Like, and are they holding themselves accountable? Are they holding others accountable? But I feel like all of that stuff can shift or influence our perception of life too, which again is very much a tangent.
And I think then that's kind of like when I was saying earlier, like of me and what I feel like I want to help is lift positivity in here. So it's up higher and push the negativity down, right? And to raise that consciousness.
And I think mine for why I'm hosting the podcast or being part of this wonderful podcast is I want to do both. I don't want to add negativity, but it's one of those, I want people to feel safe, to feel seen, to feel respected, to be reminded that they should be treated with basic human decency. And I'm grateful that they exist and they're alive. And at the same time, call out or just point out the inappropriate things and the negative things, because I feel like if nothing else, for me, like growing up, there were certain conversations you just didn't have with people because it was considered rude or inappropriate or whatever have you. But I really do agree with when we're silent about those aspects that we are taking the side of the person who is abusing or being manipulative or oppressing or whatever have you. And that sometimes it's important to call out the inappropriateness to further support people who are in these bad situations. Like being able to tell someone that, someone saying that they're going to hell is completely inappropriate and they should not be told that. And that is not okay, and supporting that or supporting them. And with that, I think that is just as powerful and is just as important as saying, well, you can come over here and talk about these things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we need both. We need both the space where it's like, be who you are. You should be treated with respect. Again, basic human decency, all that stuff. And also that person is being inappropriate for how they're treating you. And that's not okay. And they're not and whether like we want to get into like that the person is bad or if their behaviors are bad or if their perceptions, like that can be a full, how many psychological courses could that be?
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope that we were able to kind of give y'all an idea of who we are, or at least where we are at this point in our lives, kind of what our goals are for this podcast. And hopefully y'all get a feel for if this is the space for you, if this is a podcast you're interested in listening to, would be my thought with it.
Yeah. It's like if it resonates with everyone. And I think like there'll be different topics that we talk about throughout the episodes. And of course, like whatever like topics people would want to hear. And just shoot us an email like, hey, I really liked when you talked about this. Can you expand on that?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Because there's so many things that we can talk about.
There are
literally endless.
This was supposed to be our intro. Like the questions were supposed to be, who am I and why am I hosting this podcast? And then, then it just went on a let me tell you about how I feel about things right now that are going on. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even want to talk about me. Let me talk about the world right now.
I know, going back to like what you're saying, creating that safe space, right?
Yeah.
Like I say that all the time. I say that to my animals. I said that when you
Oh.
came here, like creating a safe space, because anyone that's in my space,
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be safe, right? And the more I can expand that out wider, it's just creating that bigger space of safeness.
Safe and accountable, and like holding myself accountable, holding the world accountable. Like, so the safety and the accountability, I feel like is just, but you're right. It's so important. Like we really need it.
We do. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to add or anything you want to take out? I'm just kidding.
Well, so I mean, I'm gonna say that it's very easy for me to get intense because of my ascending Scorpio. That's my story, and I'm gonna stick to it. Between
Is that what that is?
Yeah, that is like, it's like, no, we're gonna get into this between that and then like, oh my gosh, I'm sure that there could be a bunch of different opinions with that, but between like having the sun in Cancer, the moon in Virgo, and the ascending Scorpio, I feel like it's just like, all right, let's get into it. I'm going to tell, so especially the Scorpio part, it's intense. So
Yeah. And that's your ascending?
that's my ascending. So that's how I view, from my understanding, is it shows your perception of life, or paints your perception of like, or how you perceive the world.
So this might be a nice little segue into why did we name the podcast its name? Do you want to explain that?
Well, I think you'd be better at explaining it in the sense that, mine is a Cancer sun. My sun sign is in Cancer. Your sun sign is in Capricorn. And then you were inspired by that. And I think you should explain that part because you were inspired for the name. I just thought it was awesome.
Yeah, because it's like that. Because it's like, okay, you got Capricorn, you got Cancer. They're coming into this, like this sacred axis. The feminine and masculine energy of the zodiac. So that's kind of what it is. So that's how we got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it almost feels balanced, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Balanced. Yeah. So, yeah. And like you said, I'm Capricorn. I think sun, moon, and rising, right? That's what I know of my three. Sun, Capricorn, moon, it's Pisces, I believe. Rising is Cancer. So sun, moon, and rising. So those are my three. I don't know any of the other as of yet.
Gives us plenty of time to learn more about it. Well, and it's so funny because that totally makes sense where that, for you, the ascending Cancer. So it's like, let's be nurturing, let's be safe, let's do this, which is beautiful. Yeah. And then you got a happy little Scorpio part that's also like, and we can also burn this other stuff to the ground while we're at
it. That's hilarious. It's like the yin and yang.
Right. It's like, yeah. We do need a safe space for this and stuff. And while we're at it, but the other thing, not the safe place, but also that structure needs to go. So,
well, what else? Do we have anything else to add for our first one? Or we just want to do
probably just a nice wrap up. I think that'll I think it gave kind of an idea. I think it gave a good idea of who we are.
Yeah.
And kind of where we're at, and if this is space that a person, if they feel like that they've enjoyed this show, or if they feel like that we jive with them or they jive with us, however you want to phrase it, that, they're more than welcome to tune back in next time. And, I think this episode gives a really good idea. Like I said, I think it gives a good idea for people of whether they want to tune in or not, because at the end of the day, it's us, these episodes are us sharing our perceptions and our perspectives of life. And so there are people who are going to like it, people who are like, meh, and people who aren't going to like it. And so,
I also like to see like our journey, right?
yeah,
You see our journey and our growth and just where we're going. And like for me, I hope it would inspire, right?
yeah,
Hope it inspires and not take away anything, but only lift people up, to who they want to be, their authentic self. Because
yeah,
it is a journey to get here. Like, your journey, right? I know my journey. And if we know this wasn't, it's a roller coaster ride on earth from the moment we're born, it is. But I'm enjoying my ride even through the heart, because
yeah.
I know I will come above the clouds and I'm here.
Yeah, it has been an interesting journey, and it's brought me back to when I was younger. One of my favorite things to do was I was part of the youth group, like a youth group at my local church. And I loved doing things with the community, like for the community, like we go over to houses and like rake up leaves and all that sort of stuff. And so it's been a really interesting journey because then I totally went to that hyper individualism and shut out everybody and all that stuff. And going back to no, but we actually do need our community, and let me focus on putting my time and energy into the communities that I feel are really trying to make the world a better place and let me support communities that encourage diversity, that encourage people to be their authentic selves and give a space where they can express themselves. So it's been really cool to see how in some ways I definitely went back to like that little kid in me. Of course, other ways I've definitely matured, kind of. I definitely have more maturing to do, but I'm really excited to see where even a year from now, even 6 months from now, where I'm at in
Yeah.
my head. And I'm excited to
Same
see
here.
where you are. 'Cause
I
like, yeah.
know. Like just me thinking of myself a year ago, like
Um,
holy cannoli, like how much that growth was. Like, what's it going to be like in a year or 5
mhm.
years? I'm like, wow, wow. Like it's truly amazing. Yeah. Just when we put that pause in and connect with ourselves, I'm like, what do we need? What do I need?
And definitely honoring our growth patterns. Because I really don't feel like I bloomed or grew quite as much um until after I turned like 28, 29. That's when I think I really put in the work for myself, but I also feel like it was the right time for it. I don't feel like if I had done it in my teens, it would have gone quite as well, just because where I was at. And it could be it's like what I'm telling myself to cope, but regardless, it's how I
Yeah.
feel.
And
It's
I
where
think we
I'm
have
at.
to go through those, we have to go through those, the good, bad, ugly, beautiful to
Mm-hmm.
evolve and to grow, right? So no matter what, yeah, because like I'm just thinking like if we would have evolved in our teens,
Yeah. That
what
is such
direction would it have evolved us? Because there we were already inner reflecting. But then when you go through things, obstacles in life, and then you get to really connect, then you're like, oh, I got it. I got it.
Well, and I think that could be a full episode in and of itself, or just like that could probably be a dissertation of like from a philosophical standpoint. At what point is it a situation where, a hardship that we can grow and learn from? And then when does it become a hardship that should not happen? And we should all do our best to try to make the world so those things don't happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
it's
100%.
yeah. So I feel like that's that like I said, that could be an entire discussion and that could be a whole thing because it's finding that I feel like that's kind of part of for me, like my personal journey is trying to find that balance between I do think a lot of things happen for a reason. I don't think everything happens for a reason, or the reason could be that people aren't being held accountable and and that
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like that sometimes the reason is that people were allowed to be harmful but it's not like a divine reason. It's that, and that's where you can get into the whole with free will, like free will, a person can make choices about, with my interaction, am I going to try to uplift people or am I going to try to demean people or like be indifferent? And I feel like all of our interactions are making those different choices. Wasn't it Fabled? There was a video game where you could make decisions throughout the game of whether you did good or bad things. And over time, it morphed your character.
That really resonates with me. Like I totally can, I seen that picture evolve into that character.
Yeah. And so I feel like sometimes the reason that things happen is because, again, people made that bad decisions or harmful decisions. And maybe, again, they weren't held accountable. They may not have had to deal with, I mean, I'm not even talking about corporal punishment type of consequences, but they may have just been like, meh, like, it's no, he's what is it? What do they'll talk about? Oh, but his life, like he has so much ahead of him, like, things like that. That's that person not dealing with the consequences of their harmful actions. And so, I do wonder sometimes and that again, that could be a whole podcast or discussion of how many times do we credit divine stuff or say it's God's will when it is in fact imperfect humans, not, and because we're all imperfect and complicated or whatever, but how much of it is divine will versus how much of it is us not doing the thing that we ought to be doing to look out for each other and advocate for each other. So
yeah. Yes. That's a whole, that could be multiple discussions
and
on that. Yeah.
absolutely. And so, and I really think that gives an idea for people too about kind of where we're at and whether this podcast is good for them or not. Because I'm sure that, these types of topics will come up or parts of it will come up again and again and again. Because again, like just as much as we need the safe space, we need that structure being built over there is crap. And it, so.
It's like looking at both sides.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. Looking at both sides and then looking at like calling things for what they are. Like if something is inappropriate, it's inappropriate. If something is abusive, it's abusive. If something is harmful, it's harmful. And yeah, so
I like it. So, all right. So is that a wrap until next time?
Until next time. Until next time on Sacred Access, a space for the whimsically divine.